So thank you guys for joining live. We're here with Samantha Mabe of Lemon in the Sea, and she's going to be talking to us about how to create a strategic website. And as virtual assistants, I think it's important that we do make an effort to create a website so that we can make ourselves stand out online. We look more professional, we look more trustworthy, and it's somewhere where you can house your wonderful testimonials, your portfolio, your rates, and ultimately your website should be working for you 24/7 to help you book more clients. And that's where the strategy comes in. So we've got the wonderful Samantha in here with us today to tell us how to do that. How do we create a website that works to help us get more clients? So Samantha, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So like Maria said, I design strategic websites. I mostly design on Squarespace and Showit. And then I also host a podcast where I'm just talking about tools and strategies. My big focus is on helping creative business owners serve their clients well. So I want their websites to be something that gives them just the confidence to put out their services and their expertise, and then know you have the knowledge of that your website is working for you, so that you're not having to struggle to not want to share it or feel like you're always having to work really hard to bring people in. Your website should be doing some of that for you. So that's really my goal when I work with people.
Awesome. So, so you've got a company called Lemon in the Sea, and you create websites for, is there any type of business owner that you create websites for specifically?
Just creative small business owners. A lot of them are creative entrepreneurs, but some of them aren't. And so it's just a wide range of people. And that's what I love. I love working with different people who are just experts in what they do and want to be able to share that with their clients.
Awesome. And as virtual assistants, do you think that it's necessary for us to have websites as we're starting out, or do you think it's something that we can leave a little bit later when we're a little bit more established? Well, how do you feel about at what stage in our business should we have a website?
I really think that websites are important at the beginning. As soon as you kind of know what your services are and you have some testimonials, because it's easy for people to share you through a website. It's a lot harder to point somebody to your Facebook page, and on Facebook, things go through your timeline, they get lost, but on a website, everything's in the same place. It helps you look professional. And then when I go through and I'm looking for somebody down the road, I'll just save websites and I can go back and look. And I think that is really helpful for people. It also gives everybody a place where they know that they can get in touch with you. So you've got your contact stuff all right there. They know how to come back when they're ready to work with you if they aren't right away.
Yes, absolutely. I always say that as well. You're giving them an easy way to contact you with your contact form, just having your email somewhere on the web where people can just reach out to you and they know where your rates are and they have all that information handy, and all they have to do is just send in a contact form request or just send you an email. But for a lot of us, because we're just starting out as virtual assistants, it's the idea of creating a website, especially if we're DIYing it, because a lot of us won't have the budget to kind of hire somebody else to do it for us. So when we're DIYing, it's a little overwhelming. Where do we start? What platform do we use? What pages do we need? How do we know we're doing it right? Is there anything you can talk to about that?
Yeah, so I really like the Squarespace platform for people who are starting out, because you can do a lot of customization, which is what I do, but you can also pick one of their templates and drop in your stuff and just get started really quickly. And it looks good, it looks professional, and it's really not that expensive on a month-to-month if you're just keeping it small. Mm-hmm. They've changed up their plans a little bit, so now even if you're on a personal plan, you can get unlimited pages. You just don't get all of the customization features, which you probably don't need at the very beginning. And I really like to just focus in on a couple of pages. You need your home page that's going to tell people where to go and kind of give them an overview of what you're doing. You need an about page that talks about how you can help your clients, and then gives them some insight into you. So you can share some fun facts or different things on your about page. You want to have some kind of a services page so you tell people, here's what I offer, especially for VAs, like knowing which services you guys offer is really helpful. And you can include at least a base price there, gives people a good idea of where things start and if you're going to be a good fit. And then a contact page so people can get in touch with you. So that's 4. That's really all you need. You can sprinkle testimonials throughout. You can, you know, write a blog if you want, but those 4 pages are the best place to start.
Awesome. And I know you've got some slides, I think. Can you talk us through sort of how we can sort of design or write or create these pages so that they're actually strategic and we're actually there's like a flow for the person visiting our website? Is that what we mean by strategy when creating a website? Like we're guiding the visitor to all the key points of our website so that they finally end up on the kind of hire me / contact me page. Is there sort of a strategy for creating that flow?
Yeah, let me share these. And I also have a link, so you guys should be able to download the slides from there in case you need to be able to go back and reference it. But if I can share my screen, I'll just run through some of this. Some of it we've already talked about, but the big thing for strategy is creating a journey. So you want to move people who are just landing on your website to actually hiring you, getting in touch with you. So the best way to do this is figure out what you want your goal of your website to be. Is it you want somebody to get in touch with you? Do you want them to sign up for your email list? And once you figure out what that goal is of somebody who comes to your website, then you can set up the journey. And what I like to tell people is you have a single call to action on every page that sort of moves them from one page to the next in a way that makes sense. So if somebody lands on your home page, they're probably not going to go straight to contacting you to hire you. They're going to want to look at your services and what you offer. They're going to learn about more about you, and so you have to move them through that journey. And then the other thing that I like to recommend is just eliminate things that are going to be distractions. So you really want to focus on your dream clients, what you offer, and how they can then work with you. So you don't need everything on your website. You just want to focus in on the stuff that's important. And that makes it a whole lot easier to design something quickly too.
So what are some distractions that you think we might avoid including?
A lot of this is on the home page. I really recommend keeping it simple. So when I design a home page of a website, it has an image at the top. It'll say kind of what you do. So if you're a VA or a website designer, people know exactly what you do. It gives them a little bit of information about you, and then you can give them like 3 things that they can do there. So, you know, they can check out your services, they can read your blog, maybe you have something else for them to do, but you don't need to then include full blog posts and like just a really long scrolling page, because people don't ever get all the way to the bottom. The other thing that I think we always want to link to our social media, but if you push it too much, people are going to go to your social media and they might never come back to your website. So that's the other thing, that just be really careful about where you include that, because you don't want people leaving your website and never coming back.
Okay. Good point. Good point.
Yeah. For the design, there's just a couple of tips that I always have for people when they design is simplify your navigation. You only need, at that top main menu, you just need those really important pages: home, about, services, contact. That's about it. If you have a blog, put it up there. Anything else can be linked somewhere else. Allow for a lot of white space. Your website doesn't have to be really busy. You want to have some room for people to just rest their eyes. then use images that fit your brand so that it stands out. You don't want it to look like everybody else's website. You want it to fit your brand and be recognizable. Even if they're stock images that you're finding for free on some websites, you still want to make sure you're choosing those with purpose. And then the biggest thing is to focus on your dream client. So you want to know who they are, what they're struggling with, what they want to achieve, so that you can speak to them and tell them how what you do is going to help them. Because ultimately it's about what they need from you. It's not about like just what you can offer.
Mm-hmm. Are there any stock photo sites that you recommend?
There are quite a few that are good, even if they're free. I really like, there's one called Pixabay that is, they're all like free, and you can use them however you need to, and that's usually a pretty good one for stuff, because you can't just find stuff on Google and use it. They will come after you. I have had that happen.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a big mistake a lot of new business owners make, is that they think whatever they can find on Google is just free to use on their website, even with or without credits. But that is not the case. And we should always go down the kind of best practice route of just sourcing images that are free to use, or they're royalty free and you pay like a subscription. There's like subscription sites, but there are also free sites that you can use. I think you can use the images for free, and they're absolutely beautiful, and yeah, they have a huge variety. So definitely go to those sites rather than just Googling images and just using them freely, because that is not allowed. I just want to stress that.
Yeah. And what I really recommend is, if you find an image that you like on Google, just get back to whatever website that it was originally from, or whoever took it, and see how they're going to let you use it. Maybe they have you pay for it. Maybe you can't use it at all. And maybe it's just sort of figure out the source of the image, and that's going to tell you how you can use it or not.
Awesome.
And there are also a lot of free stock photographers for creative entrepreneurs that offer like free images monthly. And if you sign up for their newsletters, you can use those and you don't have to pay for any of it.
Yes, Hot Stock does amazing, amazing free images. I think she sends out like 5 or maybe up to 10 images every month for free. And they're absolutely amazing for your social media, for your website. And yeah, so if you should go totally check that out. I'll put the link down here.
Yeah, that is the one. I use her service. And then SC Stock Shop from Shay Cochran. She sends them out every month, and they're usually sort of fitting for the month that they're coming out, for a holiday or a season. And so those are fun too.
Awesome. Okay. So yes, designing our website.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the pages, but if you guys look at this slide, there's more details about the pages and what should be included. So your homepage, the goal is to communicate who you are, what you do, and where a visitor should start on your website. You really want to inspire them to get past that homepage and get into something else. And you want to make that decision really easy and as quick as possible. So you might want to include an opt-in if they're signing up for an email list, or include a link to a popular blog post, just so that you get them into your content from that page. And then your about page, it's not really about you. It's about your dream client, and people are going to check out this page. It's one of the most visited pages on most websites, because they want to know about you and how you can help them before they decide they're going to jump on a call or buy something from you. So you need to make sure that it's easy to find on your website and that it's targeted to your dream client. And then your services page.
I was going to say, a lot of us don't even know who our dream clients are. So I guess there's a lot of work that you need to do before you actually create and write for your website, in terms of who you're targeting and who you're speaking to and what their pain points and desires are. So before you start creating your website, there's just, I think, a little bit of work that you need to do in terms of who your website is talking to. So that's just a small point I wanted to make before you dig into actually creating it. We have talked about this before in my Facebook group and in our group program. So I just wanted to stress as well that you should do that pre-work before you actually go to design your website.
Yeah, it's really helpful to know that information. And even though it's going to change over time, you have to have a starting point. You can't just be talking to anybody on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have worked with clients in the past that you really liked, I like to do interviews with them. I like dream client interviews and just ask them, what do they need? What did they struggle with before they worked with you? And that can give you some really good insight into language that you can use.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And then on your services page, this is going to be more content heavy just because there's a lot of information to share. But you can make it a little bit easier to read by keeping it simple, using bullet points, making sure the design is scannable so that there are headlines for the sections that are important, because some people are only going to want to look at, okay, here are your packages, here are your prices. I don't care about what everything else says. I just want to know what you have to offer before I look into it further. And then, so there's a blog, you can have a blog to just share about your work and some content so people know that you're an expert at what you do. A contact page, which for a lot of us is the ultimate goal. So you want to make sure that's pretty easy to use. And then depending on what you guys do, if you do make graphics for people, you might want to have just a portfolio of some of that so you have something to share. So you can send them a link to just say, this is some examples of stuff that I've done, and testimonials you can put throughout your website. You don't even need a separate page for some of this. You just want to make sure that it's all accessible. You can send people to it.
For people who don't have like a visual portfolio, I like to also suggest maybe like creating like a case studies page. So you can maybe talk about your individual clients that you've had particular success with. You can use them as a case study and talk about how you've helped them and what you've helped them achieve specifically. So, and kind of design that in a way that's nice and easy and scannable. So that is one thing you can do instead of a portfolio, have like a case studies page to really showcase your achievements and skills.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I would say make sure you include testimonials from those clients on those pages and let them talk about what you've done too, because that'll speak really highly to people.
Absolutely.
All right. So for your contact page, this is a page that a lot of us, I think, just kind of throw together because we're like, it's short, there's not a lot here. But I like to concentrate on this one a little bit more because this is the ultimate goal of your website, is to get somebody to hire you for your service. So I like to include a form on your contact page that collects the information that you need from most people, and they can just fill that out and get in touch with you. I know on Squarespace you can set that up and they just send you an email. Like, you don't have to have a fancy plugin that costs a lot of money for it. And then you also want to include your email address, because there are always people that don't want to fill out that form. They want to email you instead because they have a different kind of a question, or they just don't like filling out forms, or the fields aren't relevant to them. And then I recommend you include some office hours or an expected response time, just so people know what to expect. If you only work 2 days a week, let people know that so that they're not expecting a reply from you right away. And you can also do that through an autoresponder. So I just sent in a question to somebody and they emailed, I got an autoresponder back that said, you know, we only work 2 days a week. So sometimes our response will be delayed, but we'll get back to you within, 3 business days.
Yeah, that's always great to set expectations. And I love what you said about including a form on your contact page, because that just allows you to get that bit of information just ahead of time before you actually set a time for a call or kind of take the discussion further. So you're kind of going into the discussion prepared. Maybe you can ask what kind of services they're interested in, how soon they need to hire a VA, where they even found you. I like having that question in your contact form, because it's so important to keep track about how, with how people find you, so that you know which of your marketing efforts are really bringing in results, which of your marketing efforts are working. So that's a really great question to ask. And with the contact page as well, I see so many contact pages where it's just kind of the form and nothing else. And I just want to say, like, when people land on your contact page, they are like ready to kind of work with you, right? So don't leave them hanging. I like to include like a little blurb at the top, just showing how excited you are that they've come this far on your website and how excited you are to work with them. So kind of, this is your opportunity to really hook them. So make that enthusiasm and that excitement jump off the page by having like a short little blurb, just kind of prompting them to fill in the contact form, I think.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a lot of content. This is another page where you don't want distractions, because you want people to actually like hit the submit button and not get distracted by other stuff, but you also want it to be friendly and welcoming and fit your personality, because they're interested in working with you. And so you want to make sure that, you know, you're setting them up for a successful call or whatever it is that your next step is. The final thing that I really like for websites and for strategy is just evaluating whether or not it's working. So you can do this through website analytics, and this is all free to set up. You can set up Google Analytics on your website. It takes a little bit of time, but then you can see if what you're doing is actually working or if you need to make changes. If you have those goals set, then you can use your analytics to see if people are actually accomplishing those goals. You don't have to pay attention to every single number that's in there. So I have 3 that I really recommend people look at that are helpful. The first is traffic sources, and that's just where people are coming to your website from. Are they finding you on Google? Are they coming from social media? Is somebody referencing your email or your website in their blog posts? Or are they just coming directly to your website? And that's going to tell you where to sort of concentrate your work. You know, if everybody's coming from Pinterest, you know, you want to step it up. If everybody is coming from, you know, if somebody on a different website referenced you in a blog post, you know, maybe you can follow up with them and just say thanks. Like, it just gives you the ability to see where people are coming from and where to concentrate your efforts. The second is the most popular pages. So this tells you the most visited pages on your website. And as your website grows, this is really good for telling you popular blog posts or where people are landing. So you know where to add some calls to action, where, what kind of content you might want to make more of because people like it. And then the third one is the top exit pages. So this tells you where people leave your website from, and that's a really good starting point for adding some kind of call to action to keep them on your website. And I just recently looked at my top 10. I went through, I said, okay, I didn't even have calls to action on some of them, so I just added them, and then I can see if those are working or not. And it's a really easy way to make small improvements without having to dig into everything that is in the analytics, because there's so many numbers, but you don't have to focus on all of them.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. And then I was going to talk about some mistakes that I see, but if people have questions about some of the other stuff, we can do that first.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions about the different pages on your website? Anything about stock photos or how much text there should be, or anything about the design? Feel free to ask away before we get into the mistakes that we're all making. And I love that point about exit pages. I never thought to check that myself, but that's a really good point. And just looking at why people are leaving from that page and how it is that we can change the page to keep them on the site. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and sometimes that page will be So I have like a free vault of resources, and that's one of the top pages people leave from because they download what they need and then they leave. But they're already signed up for my email list. I don't need to really keep them on my website. If it's a blog post, then I can create an opt-in, or I can just say, hey, check out this other post, so that people will keep on my website. And Google really likes if people are on your website longer.
So what would be a good page to exit from? Probably your free resource library, I would imagine.
The free resource library. If people exit from your contact page, that's usually not a problem because they've probably already gotten in touch with you. But any other pages, you know that something is missing that's not directing them to the next step.
Okay, so Leah's asking, I'm a virtual assistant. Would it be okay to do a format where a small clip is shown of each page on the homepage of your website? What do you mean, Leah? Do you mean like sort of like a little snippet of the text that goes to kind of read more and links to the actual page? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that can work pretty well, especially for an about section. So if you just want to include a little paragraph of text about yourself on the home page and then just have a read more link. And for your blog, if you have one, I just recommend either having the most recent posts or the most popular posts to direct people there. So you are kind of creating these small clips on your homepage to just say, you know, these are the services I offer. If you want to learn more about me, here's how you do that. But you do want to make sure that it's strategic. So on your homepage, you're not going to be directing people to your contact page because they're not ready for that yet. But you would direct them to your about page to just learn a little bit more about you, to your blog if you have some content to share, and you can list, you know, some basic services or some overarching services that you offer and link to that page so they can learn more about it.
Awesome. Okay, if anyone has any more questions about this section, feel free to ask, but I guess we can move on to mistakes.
Okay. Mistake number 1 is not having policies on your website. I know a lot of you guys are international, and the European Union just came out with new rules and updated rules about stuff. So the big thing here is you have to have some privacy policies, some terms and conditions. You can purchase them. I use the contract shop, but there are also places where you can generate some free stuff. And you just want to make sure that it's relevant to your business and that you're letting people know how you use their information that they're giving you.
Do you have any links on where we can get the free stuff? I'm sure people will be asking. You can send it to me later.
I just Googled like privacy policy generator.
Okay.
And there's a couple that you can just go through, and like some of them take a really long time because it's got sections you might not need, but you just go through and enter your information and they'll generate something for you.
Okay.
But yeah, since we are looking at selling services and we might be collecting email addresses, you have to have this stuff on your website. And there is, if you're interested in the GDPR stuff, Autumn Witt Boyd, who is a lawyer, is doing a free training soon.
Okay.
About updating your website for that. So that might be helpful.
Awesome. I'll find out when that training is and I'll send it to you guys. I know Christina Scalera did one as well.
Yep.
She's got like a GDPR pack, I think, that she's selling to the contract shop. I'm not sure. But yeah, she's definitely on it as well. But I'll send you guys a link to Autumn Witt Boyd's training.
Yeah. Yep, and the contract shop, which is Christina Scalera's, she has, I think she's updated her policies templates, so they're all compliant, and then she also has a bundle with some other information.
I'll send you guys a link to that too. Okay, mistake number 2.
This one is just sharing everything in your portfolio. So a lot of times this is for visual people, but if you guys are doing case studies, you really want to make sure you're focusing on your dream clients, your best results. You don't need to talk about every client you've ever had or every graphic you've ever made. You want to focus on the stuff that's the best and that you want to do more of. So if you really liked working with somebody who has a podcast and that those were the tasks that you did for them, you want to feature that instead of tasks that you don't want to do more of.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are going to hire you for the things that they see that you can do. So even if you're only displaying like 1 or 2 or 3 things, that's better than displaying 10 things that are either not very good or they're not relevant or they're for services that you don't offer anymore. And then the third mistake is including everything on your website. So if you throw everything that you're interested in, all of the details about everything and every option somebody can sign up for, that's really overwhelming for people. What they want is an overview, and then you can give them more information once they get in touch with you or they get on a call. So I really like to keep it simple on the website. You might say, you know, I either offer this list of packages or this list of services, just big overview things. So I offer graphics in Canva and scheduling and whatever else. Or you can have a couple of packages that just say, you know, it's 10 hours a week or 20 hours a month and a price. And then once they get in touch with you, you can talk to them about what they need, and you can use like a welcome guide that's a PDF that gives them more information. And that's a great way to do it, because then they're getting enough on the front end to sort of know what you can do, but they're not getting so much information that they're overwhelmed and they can't even make a decision to get in touch with you.
That's a really good point. And I want to ask you this because I know it's a hot topic for a lot of people. How do you feel about putting your prices on your website?
I like putting prices on websites. I think that when people are looking at stuff, they want to know if they're even in your price range. So even if you don't have an exact price, having some kind of a guide of a starting at, or most people invest, or, you know, if you have a package that's just a certain number of hours, how much does that generally cost? Because if you don't include it, people tend to think that you're out of their budget.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether you are or not, they just think that, because if they don't see a number, then they're probably or they're less likely to get in touch with you, because they don't want to waste their time. They don't want to feel like, oh, well, I got on the call with this person and they're way out of my price range and now I feel bad.
Yeah, that's a good point. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you guys have other questions, I'm happy to answer them about any of the stuff that we talked about or other website stuff.
How, I know this is a question that might come up a lot for people. I think most people know the answer, but should we include photos of ourselves on our website? And what do we do if we don't have professional headshots?
Yes, you should include photos of yourself. At least one on the about page. I like to have one on the home page as well. If you don't have professional headshots, I would either try to see if you could trade services with a photographer in your area. You know, there are a lot of people that you could just work for a little bit of time, or do a couple of graphics or whatever it is service you offer for them. Or you could find somebody who's just starting out and see if they would trade you so that they can add stuff to their portfolio. If you're really desperate, you can have a friend take some photos for you, but you want to make sure that you have some photos of you looking at the camera, smiling, and just that are of high quality. So you don't want the blurry iPhone photos that we all used to take. I think iPhones have gotten better photos now.
Yeah.
So it's not as much of a problem, but you do want it to look professional, and it doesn't have to be like in a business suit, but it has to look like you and fit your brand.
Definitely. And I love what you said about trading services with a photographer, because then you can kill two birds with one stone and get maybe a testimonial from them and include them in your case study slash portfolio, so that you've also got kind of like your first client as well, in exchange for professional looking headshots.
Yeah, I did that for my first headshots and
Mm.
just gave her some graphic design services, and it built a relationship so that
Mhm.
now we can continue to work together. She refers me to people, I refer her to people, because we've seen each other's work.
Yes, that's such a good point. Like, you start building your network as soon as possible. And I talk about this all the time. Just start creating those relationships. Just get your first client, and the rest will come.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes to get that first client, trading services, maybe discounting your services just for a little bit, just to get that experience and testimonials to begin with. That first client is the hardest, but it'll just be so much easier from there on out. So, okay, I'm just thinking about what else we could potentially cover for websites. Do you guys have any other questions about websites? So, Samantha works in Squarespace, which I also use Squarespace and I absolutely love, because it's just so easy to make changes and updates to your website. So if you're just starting out and you still haven't figured out who your ideal client is or who you're talking to, and you're just creating a website that's kind of a little more generic, and as you work, you kind of get to sort of, you narrow in on who your ideal client is. You can go in and update that copy. You can update your graphics to suit your ideal client. It's so easy to do that. And like Samantha said, it is actually really affordable um, to use Squarespace, and I would totally recommend it. And I've been using Squarespace for like 7 years now, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I haven't tried Show It yet, but I've heard amazing things.
Yeah,
Um,
Show It is really cool with what you can do for the design.
mhm.
You're still blogging through WordPress, so if you don't like
Okay.
WordPress, that is something to consider. And there's no e-commerce option, so
Okay.
it has a couple of limitations. But the design that you can do is you can do more with the design than you can with Squarespace. So
Okay.
it's a trade-off of what you need for your website.
And what do you think about WordPress, using WordPress as someone who's just starting out? Because I have my feelings. Oh, some, yeah. What do you think about WordPress before we get to Christina's question about
Yeah.
striking like?
Um, WordPress, if you know how to use it, it can be great. But I think that for a lot of people, it's just really overwhelming. They're afraid to go in and make changes because they don't want to mess something up.
Mhm.
If you already know how to do the code, or if you're working with somebody who can do all those changes for you, then go right ahead. It can definitely grow with you. Um, and it does give you some more options for different things. But if you want an all-in-one platform that's easy to use, I would recommend Squarespace.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's really hard to make an ugly website on Squarespace. They don't
Yeah.
make it easy for you to make an ugly website. Like, it's so easy to make a beautiful, clean, elegant, professional looking website on Squarespace. Like, I wouldn't even consider WordPress because there's just so many options. It's so overwhelming. The back end, I think, is really just difficult to navigate. So, and just Squarespace is really straightforward, and I would absolutely recommend it. But Christina is asking about Strikingly. Have you used Strikingly before?
I have not. I've never even heard of it.
I hadn't heard of it either, but I think, Christina, it's a free platform, isn't it? So if you're just starting out in your business and you don't have a budget yet to invest in something like Squarespace, it might be a good option to kind of maybe test the waters with creating your own online space. But I think as you grow and as you kind of start to think about really establishing your business as a professional business, it might be worth looking into something like Squarespace and paying for a domain name, obviously, and linking that to your website platform, because I think it goes without saying having your own domain is kind of necessary.
Yeah, I would say even if you're using some free templates, make sure you own a domain for your business. Especially now, that's what people expect. You know, it's hard to send somebody to a .wix or a .whatever website and have them feel like you're a professional. And if you use any of those, I would just make sure that as you write your content, you save it somewhere else too, because sometimes it can be really hard to export and upload to something else. So you want to make sure you have it backed up, just so that if you have to start your website from scratch when you move it as you grow, that you have it already there.
That is such a good point. That's such a good point. Does anybody have any other questions about creating your website? I know a lot of you, like Lisa, you have your own domains. Speaking of domains, Hannah has her own domain, Kaylin, Anna. So you guys are all set. Christina, I'd love to see you have your own domain name once you've got that, once you decide on what that is. So yeah, do we have any other questions for Samantha? We've covered a lot of stuff. It's all been really, really useful. I have some links to send you guys regarding GDPR, where to get privacy policy templates, maybe some links around for stock photos. I can send all of you guys with the replay.
Yeah, and I have a podcast episode about the stock photos stuff. So let me see, and I have links in there. Let me see if I can pull that up.
Oh, Kaylin, is your website on Squarespace? I've seen your website. It is on Squarespace. Okay. So Kaylin's asking, do you have any other resources for Squarespace tutorials and tips besides their own website?
My biggest tip is, if you want to do something for Squarespace, just Google it, like add Squarespace to the beginning and ask your question. There's lots of people who have done stuff out there. I have a blog that I don't update it a lot anymore, but it has some Squarespace tutorials on it. And there's just a lot of information out there about it. And so if you want to learn how to do something and you don't like the Squarespace tutorial, or if it's not giving you the information they need, I just like to search for the answers, and then other people have created tutorials, or Squarespace has a whole like Q&A section for the community that you can get a lot of really cool stuff from.
Amazing.
Yes. This is my podcast episode for images, and I have a whole list of resources that I like. For some of them are free, some of them are paid for images.
Okay.
For
oh wow, that's awesome. Amazing. Wow, thank you so much, Samantha. This has been awesome. Where can we find you if you want to learn more about your services, your podcast? Obviously there's a link there. Where can we find you on social media?
My website and all of my social media is Lemon and the Sea. So it's at Lemon and the Sea on Instagram, lemonandthesea.com. And then the podcast is Process to Profitability, and it's on iTunes and SoundCloud and all of the places. And there's also a link through my website to that.
Perfect. Awesome. Guys, if you have any last questions, now's the time to ask them. If not, I'm just going to thank Samantha for being here with us. And I will send out the link to the replay for people who are in the membership. So if you are in the membership, you'll get the replay plus all the links that Samantha has shared with us today and everything we kind of talked about in terms of privacy policy and GDPR.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again, Samantha, for your time. And thank you guys all for joining live. It's been great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Awesome, guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.